Hello, everybody. Andrew Blake from the digitalaudiomanual.com with another episode of Cubase Tips for the week of July 25th, 2025. Today, let's have a look at the vintage compressor. This has been around for a little while with Cubase. Right now, I have it loaded up on a track for us to see. Let's begin by actually reloading this so we can see how that's done. We'll start off using this as an insert effect, but it can be used in many other ways. We go over to the track tab that says Inserts, hit the drop-down list. These days, the easiest way is just type in compress, C-O-M-P, and immediately we can see all our compressors. And right here in the list, we have the vintage compressor. If I double-click on that, then it puts it in a slot for me. I can hit the little E, and then I'm looking at this compressor. A good place to begin with this is to look at this little VU meter at the very top. These lights are going to come on depending on how much compression is actually happening. With this compressor, you control everything from the input knob. If I start this playing, you can see there's compression happening. If I bring this input knob down, then the compression stops. And if I turn it up farther, then you're going to get more compression happening. Right away, you'll notice with this compressor, this knob also changes the volume. There's no auto gain on this. So when you turn up the compression, you're also turning up the volume. You want to change that volume, and you want to go over to the output and turn this up or down. You'll notice as we change the output, the compression level remains the same, only the volume changes. Next to the input, we have the attack knob. When it's turned all the way to the left, then it has the quickest attack. When we turn it to the right, we have the slowest attack. Next to that, we have a button that says punch. We can turn that on or off. In a minute, I'm going to show you what that really does and how it affects the sound. Next to that, we have the release knob, and just like the attack, when it's all the way to the left, we have the quickest release. If we turn it to the right, we have a slow release. After that, we have an auto release button, which basically takes over and disengages the release knob. And we'll talk about that in a minute. After that, we get a mix knob, which allows us to bring the compression in all the way, turn it off if we go to the left, and then any variation as we turn it up. On the left and the right, we have an input meter and then an output meter. You can click these numbers above to reset them, but these allow you to see the input signal, both on the meter and by a digital reading. And then we can look over at the output meter and see how much the signal's been affected. Right now, in this example, it says 13 dB on the input, but the output says a negative 6 dB. And then finally, along the bottom, we get these little buttons to change the ratio. On most compressors, you kind of dial in the ratio. On this compressor, the ratios are fixed. You have a 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 8-to-1, or 20-to-1, which is very extreme compression. All right, let's do an example so we can hear what happens, but also visually see what happens. We're going to focus in on this punch button and the effect that it has on the sound. Before we turn this on, we're going to do something with the attack knob. Right now, when I have the attack knob turned all the way to the left with the fastest attack it has, when we play the sound, you'll notice that the waves are kind of leveled off. Watch what happens as I turn the attack knob up or move it to the left. If you look at this peak on the very beginning of each wave, it's increased quite a bit. All these waves now look like little bells. You have a very fast attack. You're basically choking down at the beginning every time the sound hits, and it removes any kind of sharp attack. But many times you want to hear that attack. Again, that's a good reason why this knob is actually called the attack. As we turn this up and basically slow down the attack, what that means is the compressor takes longer before it reaches its full compression value. So that very first hit of the sound has a chance to get through, and it changes from a smooth pitcher to that kind of bell pitcher. When you enact this punch button, it deactivates this attack button, really puts an accent on that first attack. Watch how much more that first hit of the sound comes through and appears on the wave. Right now it's off. Now I'm going to turn it on. A very sharp point now, allowing the sound to hit a lot harder. And that's the effect of what this punch button does. Puts a lot more accent on that initial hit. It makes its own determination, basically where the attack knob should be set, allowing you to get that maximum peak on the sound. Typically, when you're setting your release, you're looking for the point where the sound dies out just before the next part of the sound hits again. In other words, you want the compression to release in time to fully allow whatever the sound is to come through again. When you're moving a release knob, you have to dial it in by ear. And if you're working with something that doesn't really have a defined beat to it, then that's really how you should work with the release knob. trying to find a place that allows your compressor to engage and release in the most natural way you can. But the auto release takes a lot of that guesswork out of it. If you have some kind of defined beat, like we do with this synth sound, it's matched to the tempo. If I turn this auto release button off, what you're going to see is kind of a thicker wave in between the various hits, because I have to try to dial it in and figure out where that compressor should end to really have the most effect. But when I turn on the auto release, now you will see the wave dips down just before the next wave comes in, because it makes a calculation and can see the wave itself and what it needs to do. So again, if you're trying to compress something that has a tempo, sometimes this auto release is going to get the job done for you a lot easier and a lot more effective. Okay, let's put this compressor on a few different instruments and see how it sounds. Let's begin with a bass. Right now it's on its initial settings. I've added some more instruments to this arrangement. Let's solo the bass. And then we'll turn on the compressor, turn up the input till we get quite a bit of reduction. Because this compressor adds so much volume right away, we're going to automatically turn the output down so we don't have to worry about it getting louder, and we'll fine tune it. So watch the VU meters. We're going to bring it up to about 10 dB of reduction here. That's a good amount of compression on that. Let's check it against the original level. Then we'll match our output. If you have headphones, you can hear that it kind of balances the bass out, basically filling out that sound a bit. Bring it back into the mix and adjust the volume that way. Now let's see what happens when we add this punch and the auto release. It immediately just has more of a bounce to it. The compressor is kind of grabbing it and giving a little bit more definition to the sound in general. Yeah, the bass just has a little bit more swing because of what the compressor is adding to that sound. Next, let's try it on a kick drum. We have this kick sound. I'm going to leave it at a fast attack. I'm going to leave the punch button off. I'm going to keep a fast release all the way. I'm going to leave the auto release off. For pretty much all of these, the mix knob is all the way up. I'm going to start with the input down and then turn it up. And then compare that sound. It gives that kick drum a much stronger attack, kind of trims down a lot of the excess frequencies. Let's hear it in the mix. Without the compression, the kick drum almost disappears. With the compression on, you can hear that kick coming through pretty good, and it has a really nice hit at the beginning. I like what it does with the kick drum. We have a clap sound on this track. Let's try this compressor on that. We'll start by bringing up the input. You get all kinds of extra sound from that. Here's one where we can try to experiment a bit with the release. Listen to what happens when we turn the release up on this. It kind of thins down the tail a bit. It leaves a strong attack. Putting it back in the mix. Listen to how much more pronounced that clap is now. I have some remaining percussion instruments. I've sent those to a group. Let's put the compressor on this group to bring down the output again. Turn up the input. Level match it. Let's turn the punch and the auto release on this sound. Again, if you have headphones on, that just adds so much space to those sounds. Let's put it back in the mix. One thing that's nice about Cubase is how they've added this vintage compressor right into the channel sends. You can open it up, operate it just like it was an insert effect, but it's easily gotten to on any particular channel. In this case, I set up a master group channel, set every track through this. It was kind of a master bus compression. Turned up the input till I got about 3 or 4 dBs of reduction. I turned on both the punch and the auto release, and then matched the output. Of course, having this set up in the channel, we can go the extra step of adding a brick wall limiter on here. I'll just set this to 0 dB. And then we can turn the saturator on, turn up the drive a little bit on the saturation. And And then these sounds start to really jump out, and that leads us to getting a lot more dimension in the sounds in general. So that should give you a basic understanding of the vintage compressor in Cubase and some various ways of how and where you can use it. So next time you're working on some of your tracks, consider opening up that compressor, take some of the tips that you've learned in this video, experiment with the various settings, think about the results that you get, and as always, go make some great music, and I'll see you next time. All right, it's going to wrap it up for today. As always, if you haven't already, click the link in the description of this video to learn how you can get access to the all-new Digital Audio Manual Preferred. It's the clear, step-by-step solution showing you not only the tips, but all the secret and typically never talked about features that'll take you to a higher level of using your software. If you've been searching for an all-in-one solution to take you from start to finish and learning Cubase and Wavelab and other music software, this is exactly what you've been looking for. So click on the link in the description and come and be part of the clear path to a better learning experience. So today we took a look at the vintage compressor. We learned how to load it properly. We looked at the VU meter, the input knob, the attack, the punch button, the release knob, the auto release button, the mix button, the input and output signal meters, the ratio buttons. And then we dove into a lot of various sound examples so we could see and hear this compressor in action. And we will continue to explore all these different features and functions and all the creative tools that are available to us. As always, it's great to have you guys here, and I'll see you on the next video.